Episode 11, To Hell with the Podcast. I'm Tim. I'm here with my co-host, Daryl. Good morning, Daryl. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great, man. It's podcast day, so I'm always hyped for these days. So yeah, everybody in my house is still asleep. So hey, let's do the thing.
Yeah, and today, we're going to be talking about one of the probably most controversial albums that Stryper has put out. We are going to be discussing Against the Law. We both have some opinions on this. Some of it is probably differing opinions in regards to the album itself, and we'll both kind of take you on a ride and journey on why we either like it, don't like it, kind of like it, meaning, yeah, there's some good songs on it, but there's some I'm just like, yeah, we're going to skip. But we'll definitely talk about that and how it really kind of changed the style of what they were doing for albums previously
Yeah,
to Against the Law.
yeah. I mean, I went into this with a little bit of a negative attitude. I just, I don't know. This is a period where Stripers. So when we talk about this stuff, it's like we always talk about Striper always raising the bar and always doing these things and these things. This was a God. I went into this and I was just like, I had a bad opinion about this record, and I was just like, this was a bad period for the band. So
Yeah.
it's like I was like, all right, I'm trying to get into, you know, to these songs, but man, if I and actually and the way I'm looking at a lot of this stuff a lot of times is I will go and I'll watch stuff on YouTube, and I was like, I don't recognize this band because I was watching especially the Shining Star video, because
Yeah.
I'm a huge Earth, Wind, and Fire fan. And so I was like, this is a great cover for this band because they have all the vocals, but I still have just this weird thing. It's not the same Striper. So yeah, my first note is I don't recognize this band.
And we're going to get into that here. There are some things that, some memories that I have when this album came out, I will go into as well.
Let's get into it. I don't recognize this band in 1990.
And when we say 1990, the album that we're talking about is Against the Law, which was released August 21st, 1990. So, Daryl, you would have been 19 and I would have just turned 17.
Yeah, I mean, this was like, whew, this this was a monumental shift in music because you're talking about the getting into the grunge. I'm thinking about Alice in Chains. I'm thinking about just Nirvana and all that stuff, and it's just like,
The stuff I never listened to.
okay,
Well, I'm just saying that because I just loved my I know I don't necessarily like the term. I know you don't like it, but it's I just always liked the rock band. I'll just call them rock bands. The rock bands out of the 80s. That's what I liked.
you're trying to not say hair metal.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. But no,
Yes.
I mean, but as I was going through this, I was kind of getting pissed off because I don't recognize this band. It's like they completely changed look, changed attitude, and all that stuff. And I'm just like, there's a lot of reasons why I like you guys, and you just kind of threw it all away.
Yeah. When I first heard this album, I was a senior in high school and just started my senior year. And I remember listening to this album, and I remember the first time I listened to it through it the entire way, I did notice that, hey, there's no mention of God, there's no mention of Jesus, there's no mention of those type things, but I still listened to it. And I listened to it some more and I listened to it some more. And we'll get into this in just a moment about some of the things that might have been going on in the band at that time. But when we go back to the In God We Trust album, and we talked about that and how it was just a To Hell with the Devil part two type thing. I looked at this album and I thought to myself, they're really, and again, the sound's a little bit different than previous albums. But I'm like, they're really rocking it. This was my 17-year-old self thinking this. They're really rocking it on this. And they may not be mentioning God, they may not be mentioning Jesus on this album, may not have those bold lyrics like they did, but they're still talking about, in a sense, spiritual things. Like you listen to Two Bodies, One Mind, One Soul. To me, that thinks about a marriage relationship. And I just love the lyric. This time we've got to stick together.
Yeah,
Don't let our hearts turn into stone.
it's a great
So
song.
that is one of my favorites on this album. Um, then they have some relational things like, hey, there's this woman throwing herself at me, two-time woman, but no, stay away. So they still had some positive lyrics in here. And at the same time, and I'm gonna say this, they were the first people because I went to look at this and they were the first people to do this, but to try to go more mainstream from a Christian perspective. I don't like to say Christian band because I don't have a Christian electrician and I don't have a Christian plumber and I don't have a Christian grocery store. You know, they are a band who is made up of Christians. But in that whole Christian genre of music, they went mainstream. But then 2 months after this album came out, one of the biggest musicians in the Christian mainstream artists in the Christian genre put out a more mainstream album, which was Michael W. Smith, and he had a song that actually charted on the place in this world. And then later that spring in 1991, you had the biggest person put out a mainstream album, and that was Amy Grant. And all of those songs that she released off of that album, Baby Baby, the name of the album was Heart in Motion, all of those songs. So you had a few artists that you know, kind of took and said, hey, we're going to try to go more mainstream. And I looked at it from, again, not knowing what was going on with the band at that time, not seeing anything that I was like, hey, maybe what they're trying to do is draw more people in, like people that may not have liked them in the past, like, hey, we can rock. And you go to the whole song Against the Law, people immediately started thinking, well, you're saying you're against God's laws now. You're against
Yep.
this. And they were like, no,
God, listen,
because think of it this way. Think of it this way. I know you see Daryl with short hair now, but when he back in his teenage years, he had longer hair. He was drumming, he was in bands. And it was almost like the Christian community coming up to you at that point, possibly saying, well, you can't be a Christian because you got long hair. That was kind of what their Against the Law song was about, was like, no, don't put me in your religious box. But when you find out years later, because if you're younger and you're listening to this, there's no social media, there's no anything you're getting is just interviews that are happening with the band. And you're not here, you're not getting like, hey, we just recorded today and we drunk a case of beer. That kind of stuff wasn't being posted. And so I didn't have any idea what was going on exactly with the band until years later when he wrote his book Honestly. Now, when he left the band in 92 ish and went to he alluded to some stuff like, yeah, there were some things not going on, but he didn't go into it like the way he did in Honestly. So but at the time when this album came out, not knowing all that kind of stuff, I really like some of the songs. And one of the signature songs that they do at concerts is All for One. They practically play that song every tour that they do.
that's a great song. I was listening to that. I mean, and I was listening. I woke up early this morning because I was having all kinds of freaking technical issues, but whatever. But I was listening to the record, and I was like, man, this lyrically, this song is really solid. And so yeah, I was trying to listen to the whole thing before we started recording, but yeah, it's like there's some songs on here that piss me off, but this was not one of them.
Yeah, yeah, I do like this song because to me, this song, again, positive song,
Right.
positive aspect. It's it's about unity, which we should have, especially in the body of Christ. We should have unity. But then you got people always picking at each other because of theological divides, which is just stupid to
Stupid.
argue about.
Right.
But this is about unity. And I think the thing is, for me, just in comments that I've read or interviews that I watched at this point, it's like we all go through valleys in our life where we are not as close to, we're not as strong in our faith, or we're not as quote on fire as we normally are. And I think hearing some of the interviews and going back, it's not that they lost their faith. They didn't turn their backs on God. It's just that they were in a very deep valley during the making, the recording, and everything going else during that time. And they bought a lot of guns. That was what I found comical reading, honestly. He went and bought, Michael admitted he bought guns. He was always coming home. Did you really need another one? So,
Really?
yeah.
That's interesting. Whenever I get into like Valley, I am so thankful for my group of just insane well, not just musicians, but just really strong Christians. And so I was like, hey, I'm listening to I'm listening to this thing right here. I was like, hey man, what do you think about this? And, it's you can it's really cool when you have a group of guys that can
Hmm.
analyze songs like this and stuff like this, but also can, you know, get into the weeds with the lyrics of the some of this stuff. Hmm, I'm not a theologian, but I'll talk to you about this stuff, and it's just really cool when you have a nice friend group. Well, I'm just saying when you I have my group of musician guys that can talk about the music and can also talk about the lyrics and get into the weeds with all that stuff. So, all right. Yeah, I love this song. Yeah, it's just it's nice when you can have a group where it's like, hey, let's get into the weeds with this song.
Yeah. And I hear what you're saying because s- with some of the songs, this one is a little bit more, like I said earlier, it's about unity, but then some of the other songs is more relationship stuff. But he also said in his book, honestly, kind of going back to that because he really goes into this time period during then, is that they came off the road. They spent about 8 months working on this album. So they didn't rush like they didn't have 10 days. So they spent some time. But he actually said that when he started writing the material, he said, one of the problems, what I'll tell you, I thought I had it right here. He said the song ideas and creativity coming out of me were very different musically and lyrically when he started writing the material for this particular album. And I'll tell you, there are a couple of songs on this album. I skip. One of them that I skip is Rock the People. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that
God,
song. It's just that one. I don't relate to it at all.
there.
It's just it's I'm not a musician. I'm not the one rocking the people. So I kind of like, that's okay. But if I'm listening to, I had to really sit back when I was listening to this week and not hit that fast forward button. And the other song that I've never really, it's to me, it's okay, but it's the closer on the album, "Rock the Hell Out of You."
Yes. So we've been talking about a lot of Stryper records, and the thing that comes to a chord is that you usually have a really good opener and a really good closer. I freaking hate the closer on this record, and it's just one of the things. There's several things on this record that I have a problem with, but yeah, Rock the Hell Out of You is there's so many tropes on this record that sound like, yeah, this record's recorded in '85. And so and it just bothers me. And I'm just like, I'm usually when I'm listening to a Stryper record, I'm like, yeah, okay, this sounds like a Stryper record, and it's gonna have all the stuff that the Stryper record has. But God bless it, this thing has just like all the hair metal BS stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what? I can kind of push this one to the side and kind of be done with it as much as I hate that. But yeah, I have notes. I mean, there's some good songs. I mean, freaking Shining Star is on this record.
You know who played the bass on that song?
It wasn't Tim Gaines? Oh, so tell me.
Randy Jackson.
Get out of here, dude. Really?
No. Yeah.
Because one of my notes is like the bass lines on this record are so wait, so did he play the bass on the entire record or just on Shining Star?
When you look, I knew that he played it on Shining Star because I've read that before, I've seen it before, I've heard it before. But when I looked it up online, when it says additional musicians, oh, yeah, okay. So it says Tim Gaines bass except six backing vocals, and Shining Star is the sixth track on the album. And then next to Randy Jackson's name, it says bass six. So he, according to what I've just read, Tim played everything else. Randy Jackson played bass on Shining Star.
That hurts my heart a little bit. Well, the freaking bass lines on Shining Star are so good. I'm a huge Earth, Wind, and Fire fan. Yeah, because God bless, that's disappointing.
But I will say, there were, to me, when I went back and I listened to this, there were some really great elements on this song, though, because
Oh,
I think
yeah.
one of the things that they've always been known for is their harmonies. And the harmonies on this album are just, they just kick it because you go back and listen to a song like Two Time Woman. I took a real blow, hurt me so, you hit me real low. Now I know that, to me, I was just like, wow, the harmonies on that song are just great. But I agree with you. And but you go back to the difference in this album. Shining Star was the very first video they dropped for this. And then first you see the album cover, which is more a black and blue type thing. And then they're dressed in more black and blue, and the yellow and black is gone. And then you see that in this video, and you see the ladies riding around on some roller coaster type thing in there. It's just a different video from the ones that they had done before. And then they released two other videos off of this album, Lady, which
Lady,
is the ballad off of this album.
right?
And he'll play that. I think he played it at the acoustic show. Maybe he didn't. I can't remember. I'd
I
have to
think
go back and
I
see.
think yeah, I think you did.
And then they've played it at Stryper tours. And then Two Time Woman was the other video that they did. And he goes into that because, and honestly, because they got kind of two videos for one that day, because they recorded Lady like in this sound stage type thing, not as a big production as Always There for You was. But they said, hey, let's keep the cameras rolling and let's record Two Time Woman. So they got that one in that day as well. So three videos from this song. But of course, you're not the only one that had this feeling, because I remember I saw my friend, our buddy Mark, and he came in and he told me he bumped into my brother, and they said, hey, have you heard the new Stryper album? They were like, yeah, kind of different, isn't it? So they had a thing. And then this album just didn't sell well. It just did not. It didn't, because I think here's the thing. It didn't land with the Stryper fans, but it didn't land with the mainstream, because I think the mainstream people were probably like, this isn't you. You're the Christian band. And so then when they try to do this, it could be, I mean, there could have been thoughts of like, yeah, I knew those guys were fake, or I'm not saying that that's what the case was, but it just didn't land with certain
Think
people.
I don't think you're wrong. I mean, because when I was listening to it this morning, I was like, man, this is not what I want from Stryper. It sounds like they're trying too hard. It's like you're trying to be
Yeah.
something that you're not. And I'm like, just be what you are. Because every episode we've talked about this band is Mike's gonna always be Mike. And then it's like this record to me was like, oh my God, it was just out of personality for this band. And I was just like, I don't want this. I want you to be who you are. And so, yeah, there were a couple of songs on this record. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Because you sound like a garbage hair band. And I expect more from you.
Yeah, yeah, I hear what you're saying. But at the same time, I go back and I think back to where I was, and I'm not going to get into stories because I try to keep this where my youngest son can listen to it. So I've got some stories from my senior high school days
I know all
that
your
I
stories. You don't have to.
remember,
You don't have to tell them. It's fine.
but you may not know this one, but I'll have to tell it to you off air. But there were a couple of songs that, again, I could relate to because of what was going on in my life at that time. And so I kind of had that connection with the song, even though they weren't as bold lyrically. You didn't have the quote altar call or the direct come join us like we've talked about with Soldiers Under Command. But I did find something out. Oh my gosh, I sent it to you the other day, and it was the most painful interview I had to ever listen to
It was bad.
because it was like, and it wasn't because of what Michael Sweet and Robert Sweet were saying. It was because of
Yes.
how Matt Crouch was editing it. It's like Michael would say like half a phrase and then let me throw a song, like a lyric from a song
Oh
in,
my god. It
and then
was.
come back and come, and it was just like, oh my gosh, stop that. And it's not like that through the whole interview. But one thing I did learn on that was when they were doing that interview, it was 1991. They were they had just released their greatest hits. So it was probably a year and a half, maybe. I'm trying to see. Can't Stop the Rock came out in July of 1991. Okay. So they came out with Against the Law in August of 90. They came out with Can't Stop the Rock in 91, which had two new songs. They were kind of promoting that with this interview, but they were talking about the Against the Law era. And one thing I found very interesting was that Robert in that interview said, "We never as a band, even though we changed some of the other things, we never wanted to get rid of the Isaiah 53:5. That was the record company who pushed and pushed and pushed and basically said, "You're going to do this." So the compromise was Robert said, "But when you opened up the CD cassette, the CD case, you see the old logo with Isaiah 53:5 under it." But I didn't realize this. They said they only pressed with that particular CD, they only pressed about 10,000 copies that had this logo on it. So if you have one of these, which is their old logo, know that it's probably, it's one of 10,000 according to the interview. But according to Robert in that interview, it was the record company that kind of pushed them to take the Isaiah 53:5 off. So,
Record companies just always suck.
yeah. And that's a good thing about where they are right now. They're on frontiers, but they've got so much more. It's them. It's their creative juice. It's what they do.
Yeah, it's independent. Yeah, they can kind of do what they want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Frontiers is a great record label because they have all the bands that I used to listen to, or they have the all-star lineups in there.
Well, it's the old school. It's old school stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
Frontier is basically the 80s record label.
But let me ask you this. What did you think about when the first time you heard Lady? What did you think about that?
I really like that song. I mean, I was kind of like I was kind of pissed listening to this record because I'm like, I don't I don't like this record. But um I listened I listened to it a couple times. Ladies are real it's a really amazing song. And God bless Michael Sweet's vocal performance on this thing. I mean, some of the songs are like I don't like Ordinary Man that much. It's way bluesier overall. There's just some things that I don't like about this record, but I really do like that song. So for what it is, I mean, yeah, rock the hell out of you. It's like, God, guys, there's some like really hair metal 80s stuff that's going on here. But like I really enjoy several songs. Obviously, Shining Star, but Lady's really good. I mean, it stands up. So, I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, musically, for me, Lady, Clay, out of the ballads that they released, from To Hell with the Devil, from In God We Trust, and this one, I like this one musically the best. I just always like that guitar at the beginning of it. And then, of course, I'm not married at this time. I'm 17. I'm a senior in high school. So for me, I'm like, I could say this song when I met my wife. I remember the first thought I had when I met my wife. I would be like, yeah, see you standing there, ooh, so fine. I can't believe my eyes. Yeah.
No,
So this song for me was just like, it was, I loved the lyrics to it. But what's interesting is there was kind of some, and I don't want to get into it because I don't want to misspeak, but there was kind of some contention, if that's the right word, between him and his wife about this song and the video,
gotcha.
because if I recall correctly, it was, I feel like you're writing this about somebody else while you're married to me. So it's, and there was just that kind of contention there, like, why are you writing this type of song? And
Hmm, that's
it's, but
interesting.
for me, I always like this one.
No,
Now,
this is a great
I'll,
song. Yeah.
I'll tell you, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just gonna say, I mean, when I went into this listen, it's like, all right, I gotta listen to the record from the podcast and all that kind of stuff. And I went into it and I was like, I think I hate this record. But when I went into it like with a different ear, it's like, dang, there's some really good songs on this record. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, Ordinary Man, the vocal or stand up. There's a lot of things that stand up on this record. But yeah, it's also in a weird state for the band in general. But there's a ton of just like hair metal things that make me want to vomit. But but yeah, I mean,
But
there's
he actually said, go ahead. He actually said about a couple of songs, like I wrote songs like Against the Law, Lady, and Caught in the Middle. He said these songs weren't necessarily anti Christian, but they weren't uplifting songs either. And
yeah,
so I
yeah.
think that was some of the stuff. There were just songs that they just typically you can walk away from a Stryper album, whether it's a hard song, a ballad, kind of the rock radio type of song, you feel uplifted. And I think that's what the difference in this album was. It was just a little bit darker, a little bit grittier. And then oh my gosh, I'm just, let me find this because this song always just, we talked about this one earlier. I got to go back to the right spot here. But there was one song where, if you have any thoughts, go ahead. I've lost my
No,
spot here.
I just had in my notes, not that kind of guy. Sounds like freaking Van Halen, which had that down as like kind of an atomic punk kind of deal. Drowning Star is going to be the thing on this record for me. Kind of sucks because there's nothing else on this record that's as good. So
So speaking of not that kind of guy, I was listening to that song, and that was a song that I just was like, yeah. I mean, back in the day, I didn't really catch the comparison, but I'm listening to that song the other day, and and I'll be honest with you, I'm not lying. But when I listened to that song the other day, I'm saying that as an inside joke to my son who might be listening. When I heard that song the other day, again, listening to it from front to back all the way through, I remember hearing it going, golly, not that kind of guy has such a Van Halen vibe to it. And in my mind, I thought, what does it sound like? It sounds like Hot for Teacher. And or it kind of some of the elements in there had a Hot for Teacher vibe. So then it was probably Thursday night or last night. I was pulling out some notes to say, hey, these are some of the things I wanted to talk about with this album. Actually, Oz brought the song in, and the song, he brought a song called Not Yo Huggy.
what?
Yeah. And apparently they go in and they talk about Rob and Mike talk about it, and they go, yeah, that title's not gonna make it on the album. And it went on to say here that Oz tried to convince him that the phrase "not yo huggy guy" would become a popular catchphrase.
That's really
So
funny.
he went on, but he goes, "I just didn't catch the vision." But then he said, "I never really cared for the song." But then he went on to say this, and this was, I've read this before, but didn't remember it. Maybe subliminally I did. But he went on to say, "But I mainly because I was afraid of getting sued by Van Halen, for it was too close for comfort to being a replica of their hit song, Hot for Teacher.
Really? All right.
Yeah. So, so when I,
Well, when I listened to it, I guess I don't know. For some reason, it sounded more like a Atomic Punk than Hot for Teacher. But hey, whatever.
yeah, because I mean, you think about at the end of at the end of Hot for Teacher, he goes, "Oh my God," and then goes into this little riff. The reason I thought that this sounded a little bit like Hot for Teacher was the end. Let me go to the end here. Yeah, so it's
I
coming
mean,
up, and I'll let you
God
hear it.
bless. This sounds like yeah, that sounds like a Van Halen song.
And to me, just the way they did the outro of that song after he says, "I'm not that kind of guy," and then just the music, I was like, that's what made me go, that sounds like Hot for Teacher when I was listening to it the other night.
But and you're absolutely right because he also does the vocal part where he scales up an octave and just yeah, does the whole David Lee Roth thing. But yeah, no, you're not wrong. It works. But yeah, I mean,
It's a
there as I was listening to this, Mike's vocal work on some of these songs, and I'm just like, you are so. I feel like he's so underrated. First of all, but when I
Rock
listen,
and Roll Hall of Fame.
that's never gonna happen. But okay, I would love it, but it's never gonna happen. But yeah, when I hear Mike, sometimes I'm just like, God bless, dude. I mean, he's one of the best ever. Nobody's gonna know that, and it's fine, whatever. But yeah,
As I look through the tracks on this album, I love the song Two Bodies, One Mind, One Soul.
yes,
I do like, and I really think it's probably more musically that I like this song than the lyrics is I like Two Time Woman. It's about relationships. So, I mean, I like that one. Shining Star, I like. Ordinary Man's okay. Lady, let's put it to you this way. This is what I always felt about Lady is if this was, if Stryper had not been known for being a Christian band and they had done Lady like in 1987, it would have been a power ballad hit.
right. And that's part of why I hate this record because I feel like it's the one that's like this should have been the hair metal more so hair metal than the one beforehand that had free and all that on it. And I'm just like, this is the record that should have been all the hair metal stuff, but we lost the yellow and black, and God, it was just so weird as far as being a
Yeah,
strike.
it just wasn't them, like you said. It wasn't them. The other couple of songs I like on this one is Caught in the Middle and All for One. Typically, if I listen to this,
I like all
I'll
for one.
skip Against the Law. I'll skip Not That Kind of Guy. I'll skip Rock the People, and I'll skip Rock the Hell Out of You. This probably has the most songs I will skip out of any Stryper album and not listen to it from front to back.
No,
But
I
I agree with you. I just at the time I really, and there are some songs I still really like on this album because again, I wanted something different than In God We Trust because it's not that I didn't like In God We Trust. I just felt In God We Trust was part 2 of To Hell with the Devil. And they came in and they said, and they did something completely different. And I was like, wow, this is sounds musically. I've always thought for me, I always loved the sound of it. Now, if they had kept their style though, if they had kept the yellow and black, if they had put the bold lyrics behind this music, I think it would have been like, wow, this album is really good. But as Michael Sweet said, when we talked about the top 10 Stryper albums, somebody asked him, where's Against the Law? And he goes, Against the Law wouldn't even fall into my top 20. And we don't even have 20 Stryper albums.
yeah, well, and that kind of sucks too because I mean, I was going through this and listening to everything. It's like it's not a bad record. It's just if you're a Striper fan, it's kind of a sorry, it's kind of a jacked up part of their career. You're you're sitting in the middle of a really good period, and then wait a minute, they just lost all the yellow and black, and they're just not. and this record isn't that good. That's the thing that pisses me off is because it's like I love Shining Star. I think Ordinary Man is like there's some good songs on this record, but it's just like I'm it's kind of pissed off because of the period of the band in general, I guess.
Just a totally different album cover. Again, you lost the Isaiah 53:5.
Yeah,
It went away from like the "To Hell with the Devil" type album cover that was just so iconic. It was just different all the way around.
well, I felt like you were kind of going away from your message, which was like, if you could do anything that would piss me off more, it's like, oh yeah, okay, let's go away from 53.5. I mean, they really did kind of just flex away from the message that they had been coming out. It's the whole time the same message they've been coming out with, and I'm just like, all right, so why are we doing this? It just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and again, I think they were just trying to do something more mainstream. They were trying to
No,
keep it, and they were still doing some things that were positive, that were in a sense they're biblical, but they just weren't talking about God or Jesus specifically in those songs. But then there were other songs that didn't have that in there.
well, it just wasn't as upfront, and so
Right.
that's what we were used to, I guess.
Yeah, we were absolutely used to that. We were
So
absolutely used to that.
so I don't know.
Because I think the thing is, and we've talked about this before, with some of the songs, it's kind of like, excuse me, editing. Always there for you. You could sit there and go, relationship, God, interpret it yourself. But with these lyrics, some of it was like lady, that was specifically about a lady. And there were more relational type things that you couldn't, it's not like you could sit there and say, it's just about, do I want to make this song for me? Do I want to make this about my relationship with God or about my relationship with somebody else? These songs didn't have that element in them like some of their other songs that they did off of their previous
Yeah,
albums.
yeah, totally. Because every other freaking song is like it's a it's a song about your relationship with God. And yeah, like talking about with Lady, yeah, it's a completely different relationship song, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's I don't know, it's just to me, this record and this part of the band is just like I don't know what the guys
Yeah.
are doing.
Well, to answer that question, here's one of the things. And he's gone into it before. This is Michael Sweet and saying, hey, during this period of the band, we started drinking. And he goes, we had a producer that was helping us out with the album. I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but he was just like, hey, he goes, instead of being an example and being able to point people to Christ, this guy actually said, probably thinking, hey, I'm going to work with Stryper. I'm going to get a break from the normal bands who do all this kind of stuff. It was kind of like, oh, you guys drink? And they're like, yeah, I could just see it. Yeah, for this album we do or whatever. And he went on in the book and said, no one got to know God during those recording sessions. We got to know Jim Bean and Bud and those types of things. So there was a lot of when they were at a point with this band where they didn't lose their faith, but they weren't walking it out
Mm,
like they had been on previous albums. And it showed. And I think that's what, at the time, again, not knowing what was going on with the band, I think that's why some of this had the difference in the album. And I think just the religion of Christianity was getting on them because it was just like, come on, guys. Oh, you're not wearing a, could you imagine? Could you imagine? Just think of about this. The people that wanted to put them in a box and say, you're not presenting the message of Christ the way it should be done. You need to go out there and you four need to go out there and be in a three-piece suit, cut your hair, take the earrings out. Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you this. For the people who don't relate to that, how do you expect them to understand what the message of Christ is you're putting all these rules around what a Christian should look like, and you're not doing anything to reach this group. And so this is what they kept hearing time and time again. So the song Against the Law was just kind of like, screw you guys. We're not standing for you on what on the box you expect us to be in.
Well, think about this. They have a song about it, freaking loud and clear. I mean, earrings dangling from the
Hair is long.
yeah, hair is long, earrings dangling from the ear. I mean, it's like doesn't matter. And that being said, it's kind of like that's kind of the reason that we love these guys because it's like they would never let themselves be put into a box. I don't know. I totally jacked the conversation, but yeah, I mean, they were the they were the in my opinion first guys that didn't let themselves get put into a box. It's like, yeah, we look the way we look, we play the way we play, and we're actually good at what we do. And so it's a we had all these other just garbage. I mean, garbage kind of these Christian bands. They were the icons of like, hey, we can actually play our instruments and write decent songs and all that kind of stuff. So it's
They weren't trying to be like anybody. And I think that's what you were talking about when you were talking about some of the other quote metal bands that were Christians. It was like, hey, we need to do a band that sounds like this, or we need to do a band that sounds like that.
right.
Instead of just be who you are, it seems like some of those other bands were just trying to imitate others. But with this album, I would probably say for me, if I'm, and this is just me right now, going back and, I've really dove into their first five albums. And I think what the sad thing was, this was their last album. Take out the compilation album that came out in 91 and then the seven that came out in '03. This was their last album of full original material for 15 years until Reborn came out. And so
Yeah.
back then you sit there and go, before you realize that they might get back together, they might, it's like, is that the last album we're going to hear from them as a band? Because we talked last week, Michael Sweet went out, left the band 92ish and started doing his solo stuff, which he continues to do to this day on top of the Stryper stuff. But it's just like, wow, was this, you had these four first albums and then you had this, and of course the music industry or the styles of music had changed. The rock bands of the '80s were getting pushed to the side by the grunge. But it's like, was this going to be the last album that we heard from Stryper with this type of material versus what we were used to? So when they came back out in 2005, I think it was like, yes, they're back. And that's why I was excited. I know you didn't like the first Michael Sweet album, but that's why I was just kind of like on that album too. I was like, yes, lyrically, they're back to doing what we were used to from a Michael Sweet, from a Stryper standpoint. And then Tim Gaines, Oz Fox went out and did Sin Dizzy. They did that album. I never really got into that album, but they did that. So they were moving back to, they were just in this album, in this period of the band, it was very low. And just these things and other things is kind of what ended up having Michael leave the band. And there was a lot of, you go back and you start reading when they got back together for their reunion tour in '03, think it was '03, that they had to really come together and talk some things out and get some things off of their chests because the band was in a little turmoil at this.
If if you're even a fan, you could see that the band was in a some kind of weird space because it was like and so I went through and looked at all the videos from this record and I was like there's no yellow on black. There's no it again, my first note is I don't recognize this band. And so
Yeah.
so it's like
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of Stryper fans did have an issue with this album. It's that
as they should.
they weren't. And And for me, I just at the time I just saw it as they were just trying to do something different, but there are some songs on here that I just don't listen to. I mean, so as many times I listened to I listened to it in its entirety, but there are those songs I said I didn't care for. It was so hard for me not to sit there and just hit skip, go to the next one.
Yeah, no, there's some bad songs on this record. I mean, to me, a lot of it just feels like freaking just I hate using the term hair metal, but there's some stuff on here I'm just like, word. It's just bad. I mean, again, I this is the record where I don't recognize this band. It's I mean, there's some songs that are good, there's also some songs where I'm just like, "Whoo!" Yeah, maybe, I don't know. There's some
Yeah, because when I now that we've done this exercise in a sense, and we've gone back through and I've listened to the majority of the first 5 albums, and I think about skippers on albums because this album has so many songs that I would skip that this one would be even though there's some songs that I really do like on this album, because of the number of songs that I would skip on this album, out of their first 5 albums, this one would rank at the bottom.
No, I absolutely agree. Yeah, I mean, God, yeah, there's
'Cause even the songs that I do like even the songs that I do like, it just doesn't win me over to say that this is one of their top albums because of the, so many songs that I would skip on this album.
well, if you look at the rest of the catalog, I mean, yeah, this record has the most skippable songs, and so if you're running back or you're running forward, this would probably this this might be another episode. Um, yeah, this record might have the most skippable songs.
Yeah. What are this I know where you're going. What are the skippable Stryper songs? And but yeah, it's now and after I've gone back through and listened to it in its entirety, I can see why Michael Sweet would make comments like, "This doesn't even rank in our top 20, and we don't even have 20 albums out."
Yeah, I don't know. It's so some of my notes were it's like this is way more bluesy than normal, but man, there's some vocal performances on here that I'm just like, yep, that's Michael Sweet right there, boy. It I don't know. He's never gonna get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but he does some stuff sometimes where I'm just like, because I was
I
listening.
know that was the thing. That was the thing that you go back and listen to it vocally, the elements in this song, the harmonies in this. I mean the vocals in this album, the harmonies in this album. As I said earlier, I think it's some of their best harmonies out of the first 5 albums. But there's just it's not what we expected. And again, I liked it back in the day, and as it's aged, I go through and there's stuff I just don't like about it.
Well, it's just like we talked about before. It's like, we set the bar fairly when we're listening to Stryper, we set the bar to a certain standard, and this record is it's just not there.
Yeah, because I think I wonder this, and I'm gonna go back to the 2 other artists that I spoke about earlier. It's like, when Michael W. Smith did Go West Young Man, and he went more mainstream with that album, and then the next album was a little bit more it was a little bit mainstream, but some of his lyrics were dialed more back in to, more Christian themed, and I wonder where if they had just done this as a one-off and Michael had never left the band and they came out with a new Stryper record in 94 that was back to what we were listening to. I wonder how this album might play because then we might have a different look at it like okay, they tried something, it didn't work, but I think just the period of this band, where it led them to, breaking up. I think that's why it might hold some more angst with Stryper fans because it was like, yeah, you guys weren't in the best place, and it led to the breakup of this band for 15 years or 10 years or whatever.
Well, I absolutely agree with that because you think about your favorite bands. It's like they usually have some freaking turmoil, and so
And they experiment. Other bands do experiment sometimes with a different sound or a different thing. So maybe this could have been looked as their experimental album if they had never broken up.
I mean, I'm always going to look at it as like, all right, well, we're in the desert, so we're going to try to do this thing, and it's probably not going to be great. I mean, it's trying to think of a comparison. Give me a Van Halen something. It's freaking Van Halen and Gary Sharon, maybe.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're still doing your thing, but it's different. And so I don't know. I just always look at this period of Stryper as like I expect more from you guys, and this record kind of sucks. And so, but I I think you can do better. So I'm not going to not be a fan, but it's like if you're looking at Van Halen, Gary Sharon, it's like, yeah, I expect more from you guys, but that might be a really bad comparison. I don't know.
No, I hear what you're saying on that, and it's because at the time Van Halen 3 comes out, it's not a big, huge album for them, but when I go back and I listen to it now, there are some songs that I really like on that, and one
Right.
of one of my favorite Van Halen songs is on that album. But I think what happened with this is that there was nothing. Yes, they had the 2 new songs that came out in '91, then they had the 2 new songs that came out in '03, but for 15 years, this was the last album of full original material that we heard from them. And it was like, is that going to be the end of that band? And so that's why having the albums that they've come out, I was like, no, to me, this was a hiccup might be too light of a word, but this was a hiccup in the band's history that kind of went in a different direction. And they got criticized for it, just like Michael W. Smith when he went mainstream. I remember there were people at the church I went to, and Amy Grant came out with that album. They were like, her skirt was too short in that jacket sleeve. And I'm like, that's what we're going to look at. And then Amy Grant, she stayed more mainstream and never really recovered after that. I was about to say Michael Sweet. Michael W. Smith did that and kind of went back more towards Christian themes in his music, and Stryper's done the same thing. But I think it's just that we know where they were at this point in time. But again, just some of the songs too, they're skippable.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, eh, it's
I'm just glad this wasn't the lasting image of Stryper, that this wasn't the last album that they had done.
yeah,
It's
no,
kind of like Rocky. It's kind of like the movies Rocky. When he came out with Rocky 5 in 1990, you're kind of like, that's how you're ending the Rocky story. So when he came out with Rocky Balboa, I was like, okay, that's a better ending to Rocky Balboa. But
dude,
I'm glad this was not the end of Stryper at that point.
dude, have you seen there's a freaking trailer for Rocky 7?
No.
I s-
Is it real or is it AI?
I I'm not sure. I saw it on my YouTube this morning, and I'm just like, hope I in my heart, I hope it's not real.
It is scary what AI is doing because I played something last night because I was like, I knew it was AI when I played it, but Lori heard it and she was like, that sounds good. Who is that? And it was a hairband version of Take Me Home Country Roads by John Denver. And it sounded
No,
good,
no, it didn't.
but it was AI. It was AI that had done it. And I'm just like, this is just crazy.
Well, hell, I mean, so in all honesty, I got laid off, and I am in a um artificial intelligence like class right now. So we got dinged on Spotify for intro. And so I'm like, well, I can have AI write our intro song for our podcast. And it's just like, oh my God, it's scary because I know I have a ton of content creators and songwriters and musicians, but I'm like, holy crap. It's really scary how many jobs I think are gonna be just gone. It's like, you know what? I don't care. I'm still gonna write our our podcast intro on
True.
I don't care. Yeah, it's 30 seconds, dude. Just go write the damn intro. But yeah, it's I mean, it's whew, the the further I get into the AI class and figure out all the stuff that it can do, it's man, it can do a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. And so I'm just like, whew, man, yeah, it's
Yeah, it can I mean, it can definitely do. It's crazy where it's potentially going. And so with that, what we've done so far is we've covered four of the first 5 albums, and we still have Yellow and Black Attack that we haven't discussed yet in depth. So I know we'll get to that one eventually. And
that
I'm
will
just looking at the time here. And those that don't know, I am heading out to a festival this afternoon. I shouldn't say it like that.
oh my
I'm heading
god.
out to a festival this afternoon.
God, we're an
So
hour and 38 already.
yeah, yeah. So we're at an hour and 38. So I'm going to need to wrap this up because we're heading out to a festival this afternoon, which will be fun. But no, we got the Yellow and Black Attack that we're still going to that we'll talk about at some point. But I think ultimately, where this ranks and the Striper history of albums, it falls. Again, there are some songs I like, but as an album from front to beginning, it's gonna fall the bottom because I can't think of any newer album. Yeah, maybe some of the new albums I have a song or two that I will skip, but this one has way too many songs I would skip.
Yeah, I would think for you for sure that this would be like on your the lower of your list. But yeah, yeah, it's I mean, it's not great, but it's we're also looking at a his looking at a piece of the band where it's like, well, y'all are kind of kind of having a good time right now. So and it's 1990, and so
Yeah,
we're talking
the
about
music land is changing.
the landscape is changing and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, and I hate to call Stryper a hair metal band, but that's kind of what they where they landed. But yeah, it's just I mean the landscape and the timeline for this record, probably all those things didn't kind of land in the same place. So,
Yeah,
but you know,
I hear you on that.
yeah, there are some good songs on here, but there's it's probably for me. It's probably I don't I don't like this record very much. So you
I
know,
mean, it just kind of, I mean, I know we've talked about this before, but there was another album, not by Stryper, but one that was released a few months after this, probably springtime, that just kind of just fell dead. It was dead upon arrival because of the music landscape, but it was White Lion's main attraction.
man,
And
traction.
that album just I remember it came out, I bought it, but it got no airplay. And it was just the scape, it was just the land of music at that time. I felt Man Attraction was probably one of their best albums, but it got no airplay.
No, it was good. It was
And
a good record.
even the even their record producers basically said, "Enjoy this album because this is the music landscape is changing." And it was the song "Farewell to You" was kind of like the band's. They knew we're done. The music they're not doing this style of music anymore. And even you saw it. You saw Stryper go from the arenas back to the clubs on this tour. And they did a tour off of this album that lasted maybe 3 or 4 weeks, did 25 shows, and they were done. 25 ish. I don't know if 25 is right. So it was just the music landscape at that point as well. But I just think for a Stryper fan, what we were used to, it just, like you said, it was not a This was not the band that we knew. Kind of like the newer Star Wars trilogies. This is not Star Wars. It is, but it's not.
My goodness, don't get us started on the Star Wars stuff.
No, we can't get started on that. Like I said earlier, I've got a festival to go to,
Yeah,
so we're
yeah,
gonna.
yeah. We got stuff to do. We can't be talking about Star Wars.
So again, Against the Law. Those are our thoughts on Against the Law. Let us know if you're listening what you think about Against the Law. Did you like it? Was it a disappointment? Where does it rank on your list of Stryper albums? But again, thanks for hanging out with us this morning or this afternoon, whatever time you're listening. you have an overnight shift, I sympathize with you because I used to work overnights back in the day. But thanks for hanging out with us here on To Hell with the Podcast. I'm Tim, co-host is Daryl. Make sure that you subscribe to us, this 5 stars or whatever you think of our show. Rate us, tell us you loved us, tell us you don't. And don't forget, you can hear us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, and we got our social media,
Heck yeah.
Facebook and Instagram. As always, keep it loud, keep it honest, and keep the fire burning.
Perfect. All right. Love you, brother. Love you guys.
Love you too, man. We'll see.
Well, yeah, we'll chop it up. And hey, yeah, absolutely give us all the comments. If you think we suck or you think we're awesome, then please say all the things. So,
Absolutely, because we want to know where we can change or do things differently. Again, love you, man. Thank you for listening. And we will see you next time right here on To Hell with the Podcast.
Awesome.